Tristan, thank you very much for joining us today. I think you're going to bring a really unique perspective to a lot of our business owners and address a really important issue that a lot of them are going to overlook. So for anyone not already familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you specialize in?
Some of my sign-offs are peace, love, and granola. I like to flow with life. I'm an old school martial artist, grew up in Malibu, California, got going with the Chuck Norris system, got my black belt at about 21 years of age. I've always been an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur. My family has been in the movie industry. And I just fell in love with martial arts, and so I dove deep into it, and I grew a martial arts academy out in Austin, Texas, where I still live. I ran it for 25 years. It was the largest school here in Austin, and I learned a lot about service and training people and empowering people and helping them to protect themselves. But I had a back injury way back in the day, back in 2001, and for about 5 years I could barely walk. So I had to make some big shifts and pivots, and I started studying more about marketing so I could help the school continue to grow and flourish. And that's where I really cut my teeth on my entrepreneurial marketing skills. And here today, I've since healed myself with some energy work healing, so I'm very passionate about that stuff, but also bringing that kind of good energy flow to the entrepreneurial world, because I got a lot of friends that get very burned out on this journey. As you know, it's hardcore. So I hope that kind of gives you a roundabout. Who is Tristan? Oh, I'm married to the woman of my dreams, and I have 2 puppies, and they're like my kids. There you go.
I think that's perfect. So let's address something you brought up in your intro, actually, real quick, if we can. Burnout and energy flow. I think that really is something a lot of business owners face.
We do.
So
we do.
what are the kind of methods or what are the things we need to keep in mind as business owners that are going to face stress and overwhelm so that we don't reach that place of burnout and implosion and basically pull everything apart, which happens?
It does, man. We've got to get the rituals or the routines in place. But I tell you what, being a martial arts instructor and a sensei for so many years, what I saw was people come and people go. But who were the ones that stayed the course and worked all the way from white belt to black belt? Usually it wasn't just that they had drive, but they had a core purpose behind their training. I think it's the same thing in business. Like businesses, we have mission statements and vision statements, and if we use them, they help us drive the ship, and they help us align and get, like truly align with the right people and the right products and services. But with ourselves, a lot of times I don't think people have a mission statement for their own life. But when you have a mission statement or a purpose statement or a core why or whatever you want to call it, I think it helps snap you back to your rituals, because for me, a lot of it is about taking care of my family, really taking care of my clients. And if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of them. So I have something I read to myself every day that reminds me of why I do what I do and why it's so important to take care of my energy. And from that place, I became more successful at staying on the path. So I would say I would start there. And then as far as what are some of the things I do, get enough sleep, man. I used to burn the midnight oil. Can you relate? Like on Skype with India, building iPhone apps, right? They're on different time schedules. And like I'm up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning and my circadian rhythms are whack. I had to knock that shit off. Not getting enough sleep, that's a huge one. I've got like water bottles chasing me around. Like hydration, that's huge. So many people, we get so caught up in what we're doing that we forget to listen to the signals of our body. Another big one for me is just getting up and moving. Don't allow myself to get sedentary. I walk and do a lot of my phone calls walking. My coaching sessions are done walking. And then I go to the gym. I train, I punch bags, I eat healthy, and I do something called Qigong. That's kind of my MO.
I think you touched on something that's important too. Finding your focus or your passion. A lot of people have a difficult time doing that, it seems. I know I talk to a lot of people and I ask them, what do you really want? Or, why are you doing this? And I think people almost feel selfish when they think about that. As a business owner, and that's necessary. I think you're absolutely right that you need that focus. How do you break through those walls to figure out, what your passion is, so you make sure you're chasing the right things?
Interesting, and I love the question. I used to go to a lot of seminars. I'm sure a lot of our viewers today, we've all been working the craft. We've been studying. We go to events, personal development, professional development, and I go to these seminars and say, okay, you got to get clear on your purpose and your passion. And a lot of times it would shut me down, because I think a lot of times we have this idea that we're supposed to change the world when you hear something like that, or your passions aren't big enough, or you need to be like a friggin' Gandhi or Mother Teresa or something like that. And that's that's awesome if that is your life's calling. But maybe your purpose is just to wake up and find some joy every single day, to feel some more love every single day so that you can infuse that into what you do. And so for me, and I'll tie that over to passion, purpose is just getting aligned with, like, I think there's a core knowing inside every human being of why they're here and what's important to them. But we get, busy, right? We're technology information overload. And so sometimes we get separated from that knowing. Like, I felt it more when I was a kid, people tell me, or when I spend time in nature, or I have a little more quality time with my family, and I remember my why, and I feel purposeful. There's meaning in what I'm doing. But that, I think, helps us discover our passions, because you have this skill or ability to know what's up, what lights you up and what brings you down. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of muscle testing, applied kinesiology. It's a way of getting some feedback whether or not something's good for your body. I think you and I, all of us, we're like these human barometers, and we have emotions. We have a guidance system, and it lets us know whether or not something feels good and lights us up, or it pulls us down. But oftentimes people override that with their thinking brain. I think we need to get into the feeling brain, which to me is, I call this the brain of your being, and just have some quiet time and chill and feel, and then think about doing something. And I felt my energy go up, and then go do it and find out. Because sometimes the best way to know what we want is to know what we don't want. So I say explore. Passion to me just means there's healthy energy flowing through you, and you feel good when you're doing it. So I don't attach it to a set thing. I attach it to an experience. Hope that came across.
No, I think that's great, and I think a lot of people do get too caught up in, their thinking brain, as you put it, society's expectations. And
override our intuition.
Yeah, I think so. I've obviously been to a lot of seminars too. I think sometimes one person was like, pretend you're a kid at Christmas. Like, if you really think of what you want. I think that was how they put it. They're like, go back in your head. When you were a kid at Christmas, you had no problem coming up with 1,000 things you wanted. But if I ask you right now what you want, you probably can't come up with one.
Yeah.
It's like, go back there. He's like, go back to that place. Right now. Santa Claus. What do you want?
Give yourself permission to ask. You mentioned guilt, right? So, I got to be the breadwinner. I got to, grow this thing, or I'm managing this team, or I got this project deadline, and I got to go, right? And we burn ourselves out, and then we feel bad for taking some time because we didn't complete something, right? First of all, it's not efficient. We're not as productive when we're not in flow state, right? And this life isn't just about that. I think this life is about joy, and really the joy is in the journey. So I pull it back. For me, I always do that. I go, why am I doing this? Where am I coming from? Right? Why am I doing it? Where am I coming from? And that always helps me course correct. I had a teacher, I'll just keep rolling for a second here, like a sensei, and I would go to him and I would get advice and insight on different things I was doing with my dojo. And I was telling him about this plan, this expansion. And, I was kind of laying out the plan and all the different aspects to it. And, I really had my thinking cap on, but there was this stress going on. He said, hey, hang on a second. Where are you coming from with this? I'm hearing a lot of stress, and I think I'm hearing some fear and competition with others and all this stuff. He goes, why don't you check in for a second? And I said, you're right. I'm coming from anxiety here about this. He says, why don't you just chill, take some deep breaths, meditate, and see if you can't come from more of a place of love and service. And I think it was just that moment he pattern interrupted me and made me remember where I'm coming from. And that's a really good tool.
Well, I think you stressed a good point, too, about asking the right questions. I think too many of us ask, what's this person going to think, or what are they going to do if I do this, rather than the kind of questions you were asking, which are obviously much more productive.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. So a lot of your business and your training focus around mind, body, spirit connection, developing that for success. For people not familiar with that concept, define in general the mind, body, spirit connection.
I got this big old word right here. That'll be our lead in. Satori. So my company is called Satori Method, and I have an academy. And so I grew my dojo, which is a martial art training school, and it was like my laboratory. And it was here in Austin. It still is here. I'm just not actively in the dojo teaching because I pulled myself out, and now I'm serving entrepreneurs in a new way. But I created an online dojo. So when it comes to your question about mind, body, and spirit, I was introduced to those concepts through my karate teachers back in the day in Malibu. And we had a triangle on our shirt that was spirit and body and mind. You wanted the trinity. You wanted the flow of all three and the connectivity. And for me, today, spirit, it lives right here. You know, I'm driven by my spirit. And I like my spirit to be the leading force for my mind, which then directs and navigates my body. So my actions are fed and directed by my mind, but my mind is fed and guided by my spirit. And in martial arts, we have this posture in Kung Fu. Kung Fu, by the way, means mastery. So I say this is a strong and healthy body, and this is a clear and a focused mind. And when you bring the two back together into mind, body, one, and you work your craft and you train, something happens, and something awakens or comes out of you. And Satori means awakening. It's a Zen term. It's a traditional Zen term that just means you have like an aha moment, a breakthrough, a mini enlightenment, and you see clearly. And I know we've all had those moments where we're just like, I got it. I know exactly what to do. And then we've had the opposite. But it's so sweet when you have that breakthrough and you know, like you know, like you know. And I love that because when I'm in that state, I feel unstoppable. I feel driven. I have all this energy and enthusiasm, and productivity comes through me. And when I'm off, I'm friggin' off. And to me, it's usually because something to do with my mind from over engaging and not taking care of my body that throws me off. So when I talk about mind, body, spirit, and why that's so important to me is the union of those three. It creates the healthiest state that I can be in. And if you've ever looked at the yin and the yang, and you see that line through the middle, which means balance, right? Or moving balance, because balance is a real weird concept. But that line down the middle, it represents flow. It represents that these two energies are in harmony and there's flow in your life. And when you're off, it's skewed and you feel off. And so I'm always trying to create the trinity and the flow between those three. Then my business explodes. And we can get into that.
Okay. So I think most of us understand like being in the zone or the flow, or those pieces are working together well. And like you said, maybe you know because you feel off if those pieces are off. Is there a way to figure out which piece it is, or what to address, or if I'm just sitting there like something's not working?
Yeah.
How do you know if it's the mind or the body, the spirit, or all three that really you need to kind of pull up to?
That's a friggin' great question. When my back was injured, and I had tried so many alternative healing remedies and therapies going on 3 years, I eventually said, all right, I probably need surgery, because I'd seen x-rays and all this stuff of my spine. I thought, that's what the problem was, because the x-rays were showing some misalignments and all kinds of crap. Scared me. But anyway, so I eventually went and got surgery, and that didn't work either. $90,000 surgery, Beverly Hills. I was just so messed up after that. I got to the point of ending my life. It was one of those dark night of the soul kind of journeys. But I will tell you this, that on the journey, and I did get out of it, and I did heal myself, and I grew my dojo back, and I became stronger than I was before. So it was sort of like grace in disguise, which never feels like grace when you're going through it. But when you're on the other side looking back going, wow, man, that really changed the direction of my life, and there was a blessing inside that. So anyone going through that right now, hang tight, keep going, you will be on the other side. But looking back, I had to try to reverse engineer, how did I heal myself? And that yin and yang model really helped me a lot, because as I pulled it apart to look at it and look at what's going on with the body and look at what's going on with the mind, I was trying all these different therapies. And so I think a lot of people know about affirmations and visualizations. Well, because all the physical stuff wasn't working, I'm like, well, shit, it's got to be psychological, right? There's got to be some kind of psychosoma or psychosomatic thing creating this. So I started doing a lot more with visualization affirmations. And I'd write them, put them on cards, and listen to stuff, and I think we all get that. But they weren't going down deep enough into the deeper layer of my mind, the subconscious, where those really help to rewrite the programs. My friend John Assaraf, the CEO of NeuroGym, who I actually work with that company. I do a lot of business coaching for them and help grow a program there called Business Black. I met John years ago after the movie The Secret came out. We became business partners in a different business, and we made digital vision boards. And in that journey and training and working with John, I realized we had to get out of a certain brainwave state like beta and get people down into alpha and deeper and deeper and deeper, where those affirmations and visualizations can take root at the deep programmatic level. And so I realized in my journey that I had two minds. I got the conscious mind and I have the subconscious mind. I think sometimes in the conscious mind, we're setting goals, we're in a logical state, we're doing those kinds of things. And sometimes we keep repeating the same patterns because the deeper mind hasn't had an upgrade yet. So that can affect your physical body too, because I think a lot of people now understand that the mind-body connection it's like mind-body, body-mind. They're not separate. So if your deeper blueprint is saying, stress, fatigue, illness, energetic, whatever, messed up, you're going to keep printing that into this body. And on the other hand, I was trying all these physical modalities and shots and manipulations and inversion therapies and all the stuff that we do for our physical temple, right? But I didn't know that there was another body. There's an energy body. And the way I discovered it was by making fun of people who did Tai Chi and something called Qigong, which is the grandfather of Tai Chi. I made fun of it because I thought it was too woo-woo and foo-foo. I was used to hitting stuff, and I thought, that's how we make energy, people. There's no energy here. And I was so friggin' wrong. But when you're down and out and injured and hurt, and there's like, what do I do now? I've had surgery. What do I do? You open up, and you start trying stuff that you've never tried before. So I went and found my way to a Qigong workshop. There's a guy visiting from China, and I went and took his workshop. And I felt this energy in my freaking hands and started to move through my body. Eventually, I moved it using the power of your mind. There's something called mind force where you can move chi through your body. It's freaking cool. Where your tension goes, energy flows. I opened up this area in my back where the surgery was, and it opened all this energy shot down my leg. I know it sounds a trip, but my leg had been numb for several years. I couldn't feel the bottom of my foot, and my wife used to have to help me get around. And at one point, I was in a wheelchair for a little while and had a handicap thing in my car so I could park and stuff and get around. So it was that level of pain. It flushed through my body and down my leg, and my foot started to tingle. And I just started to bawl, man. I was crying, because finally, after all those years, I did something inside that made a difference. And within 2 months, I was back in my dojo. So I said all of that because there's a map that I kind of figured out. So you have two bodies. You have a physical body and you have an energy body. And a lot of times, things aren't getting fixed because the energy body is off. Like acupuncture is really good for helping with that. Reiki is really good for helping with that. Qigong, yoga, all those kind of internal things. But don't forget you got two minds. And so the dance for me has been knowing which one to use and when, which is your original question. How do you know? And that comes back to my original point, which is I think you have a knowing inside that if you get quiet enough and you listen, like doctors are awesome and specialists are awesome and coaches are awesome and everyone has this external idea of what we need, and sometimes they get it right, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes I think the answer is inside. So there's my rant on that.
No, that's perfect. And I think probably most of the time
that's our system. So our method, Satori method, is about understanding the two minds and the two bodies and awakening that inner wisdom.
Okay. And that's probably a good lead into this system you've developed. You refer to as the 3 dojo system.
Yeah.
You were going to share with us today, which is a system for figuring some of this out and developing it, correct?
Yeah, man. Well, here it is. That's my Craig Ferguson style. I'll show it to you again in a second. So having a martial arts school, a dojo, a place of training, as a kid, you go in, you take your shoes off, and you leave them with your ego at the door, and you walk in. I know you're a martial artist, so you totally get this. And you bow, and you come in open, ready to learn with your teacher, your sensei, your sabu, whatever, your sifu. And you spend time working the craft. You're working on your body, man. You're working on your mind, and you're overcoming your reactions and all that crap. And eventually, over time, you gain levels of mastery. Eventually, you get to your black belt, right? And then even your black belt over time, if you keep training, starts to fray, and you go back to the innocence of the white belt. You complete the cycle. But during that training in that dojo, I developed discipline and follow through, that work ethic, and that's where I got that drive. But my teacher always would do things to help us go inside, and I discovered there's an inner dojo. So we think, like, if you think in terms of the warrior, the battle was in the dojo, in the fighting and mastering yourself through that. But there's a much more intense battle that lies within. Buddha says the real battle lies within. And I think as entrepreneurs, we all get that. We're the ones who are usually getting in our own way. We're the ones who are judging and or whatever. It's not enough. That story. So you go inside, and I found the door to that through meditation. So this became the next most important thing on my journey, was my Zafu. And, sitting in Zen meditation and trying to attain these states of Satori, awakening. And that's a beautiful place, I think, for all of us to keep investigating. Like, there's this beautiful, beautiful mastery inside. And so now I was teaching my students about meditation, not just fighting. But then I noticed for myself and others, we would leave the dojo and we'd put our shoes back on, but some people would put their ego back on too. And when I say ego, I'm talking about the reactive self. I think there's also a healthy sense of ego, a healthy sense of self, because that's what the word ego means, is self. But it's when you go too far to the extremes that it gets you in trouble. And then they would walk back out, and I would walk back out in life and be a jerk. My bumper sticker that I really wanted to create, can we use a bad word? I did, see? Here's another. Don't be a dick. Don't be a jerk. Don't be a douche. We hear that in our industry. Just don't be a jerk. Be awesome. Be an amazing human being. Be of service of others. That's what the word samurai means, those who serve. And I was like, you know what? There's an outer dojo as well. I wanted the students to feel as if they were still in training, so that there was congruency between the philosophy of martial arts, which is Budo, which means it's a higher path of mastering yourself and becoming someone who helps others, right? The stronger you get, the more you can help others. That's the whole training cycle. So, and then I was like, okay, so there's 3 dojos. So that's what this is. But I found a way to adopt it and adapt it to business. So the yellow is where you're training. That might be working on your marketing. That might be working on your CrossFit, or whatever it is that you do. You're taking care of business. You're working your craft. Then there's the inner dojo, where you're taking care of your reactions. You're remembering your core why, your identity, your purpose driven. And then you have your outer dojo. And you can put whatever you want on that outer dojo. I did one for myself where it's like, what's important to me? And I had the core 4 in the middle, which was the 2 minds and the 2 bodies. I had that 1 unit right in the middle, which was my spirit-driven center. And then I had the grade 8. That's our Satori method system. And I was like, what is really important to me and the people that I work with? My family, parenting, right? Family. My relationship with my person, my Sabrina, my romantic connection, that love. My friends and community. So important, because each one of these things either lifts you up or sucks you down. And so I try to create a wheel where everything was in balance. Like if you spun a wheel on a bicycle, and if one spoke is too tight or too loose, it warps. And sometimes entrepreneurs, our wheel spoke to our business is so freaking tight that it's warping the wheel and it's throwing off our relationships, or we're not spending time with friends. Or another one was adventure, like travel and fun and recreation and hobbies and things like that. But then there was community, and then there was contribution and charity and giving back. Like that is so essential, I think. And then managing your finances, like that's huge. Like sometimes people make a ton of money on a launch, boom, and it's gone. And they're living like rock stars, but they're not putting anything away for the future. So I created that mapping system for myself, and then I was like, this is great. This is helping me stay on my path. And then for business owners, I kind of drill in one layer deeper, and we go in their business, and then we create a whole map, like leadership and influence and communication and outreach. Like, what are the things you need to make your business holistic and balanced? So that's our 3 dojo system in a nutshell.
Perfect. I think you touched on something really important. the overly tight spoken of business. So many business owners do get hyper focused on the business, and they do end up sacrificing relationships or giving or themselves. How do you keep that balance? How do you stay aware that, hey, maybe I've spent 100 hours a week on my business for the last 6 months, and it's time to put some of that somewhere else, or hopefully not even get to that point?
Yeah, that's why mindfulness is so important. I created something called mental kung fu for my students, and it's a process of checking in. And basically in martial arts, the first thing you have to notice, especially if it's street fighting, is you got to recognize that you're under attack, right? And hopefully before you get hit, right? So you have to be mindful. You got to walk around with awareness. And I think we have to live through mindful awareness. Like notice, check in. That's why I get up from my chair and I move around. I check in. I'm like, how am I doing? Am I in flow state? Am I being productive today? You know, how do I feel? Wow, I feel a little off. I'm ornery. I'm a little pissed. I'm a little sad. I'm a little, like, what's going on? So recognize is the first step. The next is to refute, because we got old programs running, and they're the ones that keep us on the friggin' hamster wheel. Loop, 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 Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day. Oh, I want to change. I want to change. Bullshit, you don't, because you're not refuting that shit. You got to look at it and go, wait a minute. That's like the inner coach. It's like the evil coach. It's the bad coach, the one that yells at you, although that works sometimes. But it's the one that keeps putting you down the same path, and you got to be, whoa, hang on, like the bad guy's coming. You go to, hey, back, stop right there. No. We've already done this before. I already know where this is going. And then you got to release it. Sometimes that's hitting a bag, going to the gym, meditating, breathing, swimming, walking, yelling in a pillow, whatever. You got to release that shit. Otherwise, it messes you up, right? You ever walk, you see people are driving with their brakes on because they never released it. And then from there, I think after you release it, you can kind of go, I can see clearly now. You get a little satori, you get a little bit more, you remember why you're doing this. This deadline, I can push that. Let's remember the why. And then I think from that point, you can start to retrain or reframe what your coach has been telling you. And now you add the mental blueprints that support you. And that's why affirmations and visualizations and things like that are important. Or reading, you know, your mission statement. Over at NeuroGym, we've got this amazing TV when you walk in. And it's all the core values of the company, the why, the partnerships, the vision. And I just stand in front of that thing sometimes and I just look at it and read it. Same for Satori. And it brings me back in and I remember and I change my state. And then from there, my last, because I use R's here, right? Catch it, recognize. Next one, refute it. That's like really important. Most people miss the refute. Release it, like let this shit go. Remember what's important to you, right? Upgrade it with some kind of reframe. And then, because I'm so into energy work, radiate it. That's just your charisma, your presence. And people come around an entrepreneur like that and they're like, man, it just feels good to be with you. It feels good to be around you. I want to be partnering with you. That's how I get my business deals. Is I work that mental kung fu and I get to radiate. And that's easy. So, there you go.
So we have time for one more quick question.
All right, man.
I'm sure, and we kind of talked about this before the interview, where you go to these and you get a lot of information and you don't always implement them. What's something someone watching right now could do tomorrow? What's that first step, that thing that they can tomorrow make one little change that even a busy business owner can say, I can do this, and start moving in the right direction to get this going?
There's a gazillion tips. I'm looking at one right here from my friend John Astraf. He says, what's the most important revenue driving action I can take now? Drive revenue, drive revenue. If you're a business owner and you're not driving revenue and sales, you're going to squash. But even more importantly than that is ask yourself, what's hurting or pulling you down the most right now? Deal with that. Get that pebble out of your shoe. Because if you just keep going and you don't address it, it's going to turn into a real problem later. And maybe it already has. So get a handle on that thing, the big challenge, the big energy suck, that client that's just like a freaking energy vampire, or that employee or that contractor that's just not showing up doing it, or you not showing up. Like put something in place. I'll leave you with this Muhammad Ali analogy. He used to hate to run. I didn't know this until I heard this story. He used to hate to run, but before all of his big bouts, he got to get in fit fighting shape. And sure, he would, go in the gym, jump the rope, hit the bag and spar and all that, but he had to run. So what he would do is he'd take his running shorts and his running shoes and he'd put them right next to his bed. So the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes in the morning, get your ass up and go run. So what's the first thing that you think about when you wake up in the morning? Because that's going to set the tone of your whole day. And if you do that piece right, that'll expand and grow. You establish yourself in what's important and then go get it done.
I think that's a perfect piece of advice. So for everyone that's been watching this that wants to learn more, keep following you, follow up with you, where would you like us to send them to?
Come on down to Tristanville. Tristan with an A, Tristan. My last name is Truscott, Truscott.com. And if you want to go /session, I'm more than happy to extend a consultation session for anybody who wants some insights on marketing, business, some of the things we're doing over at Business Black at NeuroGym, or if maybe you've got your own, I don't know, you're a coach, you're a school owner, yoga, martial, whatever. If you're heart-centered, love-based, all that good stuff, then let me give you a session for free, and I'll deliver some serious value for you, and then we can consider maybe going a little further. So TristanTruscott.com /session. It's on the house. Come say hi.
That's great, and thank you very much for offering.
Yeah, pleasure.
Tristan, this has been great. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Obviously learned something. So
Thank
you very much.
Thanks so much, man. Have a great one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye now.